My name is Ryan Pack.
And I'm Nicole Barlow.
And this is Soundtrack Your Life, where we speak with a guest about a soundtrack that is important to them. Today, our guest is Colin Casserd of the Nostalgia Pit podcast. Welcome, Colin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell our listeners about the Nostalgia Pit?
Well, the Nostalgia Pit is a podcast aiming to dissect pop culture, the subconscious, and other psychological phenomena through a hyperbolic and prismatic lens. And that is the pitch that I give people to start every one of our podcasts like that. But essentially, the backstory of it is I made music for a good period of time in the Pacific Northwest and got to know some other musicians, became friends with them. One of those people is a guy named Rob Snow. He's my co-host on the podcast, and we got introduced by doing a lot of music together. And when the pandemic hit, it was one of those things where you wanted to be social and everything. It's just the classic podcast story at this point. And so I just, thought of people that I would have wanted to talk to and, looking for that, or thinking and looking for that specific, like, you never miss a beat type of vibe when you're with that friendship. It always picks up where it left off. And I thought of a couple people, Rob, Kevin, and my friend and their friend, mutual friend, Vaughn. So we started doing the podcast together, recording for 3 hours at a time. I was trying to learn what to do with it as far as the editing process and everything. I was going to school for psychology at the time, hence the little bit that's in the intro statement. So just trying to look at things with both comedy and nuance, simultaneously, do a little bit back and forth. We're pretty ADHD, so we'll go off the beaten trail and then come back to it. And it's kind of become like a podcast staple at this point in time, where we're talking about one thing and go off into 17 different tangents and somehow still land the ship. But we have a lot of fun. We do a couple segments. One of them is called Limited Recall, which is where, we have a classic or deemed classic in our brain piece of media that we haven't seen in at least 10 years. And then we go back and watch that again and see if it held up or, what current you feels about it. I did that on Indiana Jones movies recently. I hadn't seen them since I was in my single digits. So, probably 25 years or something like that. And yeah, go listen to that episode if you'd like. It's problematic in a lot of elements, fun, but, movies are entertaining. Ultimately, I'll just say that. And then we have another segment called Song Spelunker. We look at specifically the lyrics of certain songs, as we are both musicians and have musician background. So we just strip everything away. When I was a kid and I was always listening to music, I would melody in music always came first. So, and eventually it would come to a point where I'd realize that I had no clue what the song was about, what they were saying or anything like that. And so we started looking into songs. I think it started with the Aerosmith's Dude Looks Like a Lady. We were talking about Mrs. Doubtfire and we were like, is that song that song seems pretty problematic. We should probably look at it. We just started
problematic.
Steven Tyler, problematic.
Yeah.
Never.
I think ultimately, I think we decided, after looking through the lyrics and breaking it down, that while you probably wouldn't make that song today, it's not as problematic as we were scared that it would be. And there are definitely more problematic songs about that same subject matter.
Lola by the Kinks, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
There are entries.
Yeah, and definitely entries. So yeah, essentially we do a bunch of different things. We just did a review on the new Toxic Avenger movie. So Rob and I, both being musicians, we made a album 11-ish years ago, 12 years ago, and then it sat on a hard drive for a really long time. We both make hip-hop music, and so we made an album. We called it The Toxic Crusaders. An engineer buddy of mine heard it, and he said, hey, I really like this. I'll master it, mix and master it for free. I was like, well, I guess, that's going to happen. And so at the end of every episode, we play a song by one of us or our friends, because we have a lot of music over the years, and we're still putting out new music. And so we'll play a song at the end of the episode. So the outro song changes every time. So it started out was like, oh, well, Rob and I were now doing a podcast. We had this whole album together. We might as well start playing it. And so we started playing it at the end of the songs, or at the end of the episodes. That's how the engineer guy heard it. But the album's called The Toxic Crusaders. So that's like another, staple in our podcast. So we just watched the new Toxic Avenger movie with Peter Dinklage and Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood and Taylor Page. So we do, just a bunch of different things like that. We'll do like history. We did an episode on John Henry Kellogg and the history of cornflakes. And that got a little weird,
a lot of whacking it in that history.
There's some stuff.
There's some stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We're not, also like the cornbread mafia, like we'll stumble across random subjects that it's just really fun to do like a history lesson on. Echo the Dolphin was, I think, one of the most recent ones that we did, the video game for the Sega Genesis, and the whole story of John C. Lilly and the government, paying for him to dose dolphins with acid, and then the gal that lived in the dolphin house with them, and just like that story unfolded. That was a really fun episode.
Love that. I love that it really runs the gamut between things that are highbrow and things that are, maybe considered a little lowbrow, like what we are talking about on this podcast today.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. With Godzilla soundtrack, not the highest of brows.
Yes.
Not the highest.
No.
Not an elevated.
Neither funny or with nuance.
No, not funny nor with nuance, but it still has a special place in my heart for a couple reasons. So that's why I chose it.
Okay, so we're talking about the 1998 Roland Emmerich film and soundtrack to Godzilla. So you want to give us some stories about why you picked it?
Yeah, well, so I picked it. The number one reason was it's a fond memory of my cousin. My cousin passed away a couple years ago, and he was... I had siblings, but they were 6 and 7 years older than me. He was born 13 days before me, so it was like closest thing to a brother that I ever had. But we spent a lot of time as kids. We would get sent to our grandma's house together, and so we spent a lot of time there. We watched a lot of music videos. The Box was big, before right around the same time MTV was still doing music videos. But we watched a lot of, we consumed a lot of music. We played a lot of random games, watched a lot of wrestling. But one of the things that we loved was hip hop music. And we loved, just being 8-year-old, 9-year-old boys. We loved the concept of like swearing and listening to music with swear words. And it was always just this like, oh my God, they like said that. And then like your parents allowing you to do that. So one of the things that he and I would, every time we would meet up with each other, we'd be like, I found this album. It has like 6 swear words on it without the parental advisory sticker. And so the Godzilla soundtrack did not have a parental advisory sticker. And I think it had 8 or 9 swear words. And so it was big in the lexicon for, us. And obviously it had a Led Zeppelin reinterpolation by a hip hop artist. So at the time I really liked it because it was something that my dad had shown me a lot of when I was younger, plus like the stuff that I liked. It had Green Day on it. It had the Wallflowers. I know they were popular at the time. It had some big names for the time. And I just remember really liking the album. And just like I remembered liking the movie, and so also Rage Against the Machine has a Rage Against the Machine song that's not on one of their other albums. Technically, you can get it on the Japanese release, I think. But yeah, it was some fond memories of listening to it on the plane going to Palm Springs to visit our grandma, so.
Well, I think that's lovely and a much more pure recollection, a pure memory that I expected to get from Godzilla, the 1998 film, and what is formerly and properly called Godzilla: the album,
yes.
Which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that this is distinctly an entry in soundtrack as marketing tie-in, as promotional tool, because none of these songs show up in the movie. Some of them show up in the end credits, but they do not show up as needle drops in the movie.
Yeah.
This is a wall-to-wall bangers companion album to Godzilla.
Yeah, I got Foo Fighters on there as well, Then there's groups like, Fuzz Bubbles, which you might not, if you don't recognize, that's totally understandable. Days of the New. Don't remember them. But it is funny. So I went and re-listened to it, and, the first song is a Wallflowers cover of David Bowie and Brian Eno's song, Heroes. And really good song. I really like that song. I've heard some really good covers of it. I did not like this cover. I was like,
Do you remember, and you were young at the time, you were younger than I think both Ryan and I were, but do you remember this song being everywhere in 1998? Because I remember it being absolutely everywhere.
I remember it being a lot of places. My sister, I'm pretty sure, really liked it. She was 6 years older than me. Yeah. I mean, the Wallflowers had a moment.
They absolutely had a moment. I mean, Jacob Dylan is rock royalty, and they were selling him, I think, quite hard as sort of a rock heartthrob. And this song was everywhere. This song, Come With Me by Puff Daddy, and Jamiroquai's Deeper Underground seemed to be the three songs that they invested the most in. And when I went back and looked probably more at the music videos for these three songs than I spent watching the movie, but all the music videos for these three songs were like these three artists fighting disaster in like really cheesy Godzilla scenarios. So like the heroes for Wallflowers, they're like in LA, and like Godzilla's tail busts through a window, and Jacob Dylan just has to like keep singing. He's just keep like pensively staring out at like the Orpheum in downtown LA. It's great.
I should go back and watch that video. I didn't even think about that. I do remember the Come With Me and the Deeper Underground videos very well. I still think Deeper Underground holds up as like top 5 Jamiroquai song. I'm not the big...
Yeah, it's a fun bass line, plus monster sounds.
Plus monster sounds.
Plus Godzilla.
Well, speaking of monster sounds, the Brain Stew Godzilla remix. I don't know if either of you listened to that before this, but...
Of course.
Let's talk about it because I had no idea this existed until I listened for the podcast, and oh my God, it's the funniest thing.
It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do different to the song? Are we going to change some lyrics? Like, nope, not going to do any of that. It's like, okay, well, what if we just added a Godzilla roar and then potentially a triangle at a certain point, like a very high-pitched percussive instrument.
But it's literally like Godzilla went into the studio and like laid down vocal. It's like the Godzilla roar shows up like a few times in the beginning and then just punctuates throughout the track. And it is so bad. It is so bad. But now I also kind of feel like this is the definitive version of Brain Stew.
No.
Now I feel like I'm missing something. Now I feel like I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to be like, I really miss Godzilla.
You should...
Really wish he was here.
Make a playlist on YouTube or something, because I don't think that version is on Spotify when I went and looked, but I'm not sure. But you should just make like a playlist that is Dookie, but with that version of that song instead. It should be like the real Dookie, Dookie remastered.
I think somebody on TikTok needs to do that Dookie remastered idea where they just add Godzilla effects to like
every track. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
When I come
The Godzilla
Okay, I might listen to that.
Yeah, Nicole texted me. I guess they got Godzilla. I guess they got Zilla to go into the studio, and I texted back,
bars.
Zilla's got some bars.
Yeah.
got bars. And I mean, that's what they want you to think. But that's how far of a stretch it is to believe that any of these songs are remotely connected to the movie. As far as I can tell, the plot of the movie is Ferris Bueller and the guy from Leon, the Professionals Saving New York from Godzilla. But Godzilla is like a first draft version of the T-Rex from Jurassic Park because he looks nothing like Godzilla.
Godzilla in this movie is probably like 25 stories tall at one point in time and then fits into Madison Square Garden. And is laying eggs in like the rafters. Like, okay.
Right.
Okay. How
right.
You can't be this and that.
Right. The scale is very unclear. I've never been more confused about how tall Matthew Broderick is.
And Matthew Broderick, again, like I could see him being, nerdy scientist. Like that's not that much of a stretch as far as casting. Some of the casting in this movie was fitting, but some of it was very confusing. It wasn't like all bad. But him as that role, it's like I could see it, but he is just interestingly enough, he's a very inconsistent actor. When he hits, he's very good. He's very satiating in his roles. But then when he doesn't, it's just like, what? It's so awkward.
Yeah, I agree. And he really does not hit in this role. I think you can kind of see the regret, the remorse, somewhere in this performance. Like, what have I done? Where have I gone wrong in my life to be involved with Godzilla in
And he
1998?
channeled that energy into his 30 Rock character, Cooter Burger.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, I want to say that they really attack this Godzilla with the full force of the military. It's fighting, submarines, planes.
The military definitely killed
Brit-
more people than Godzilla did in this movie. Like they're just
Yeah, like
they're like just shooting into buildings with it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, go figure.
Collateral damage, what's that?
What's that?
Go America.
Exactly.
Famously, Roland Emmerich, in an interview, which you can find on his Wikipedia page, says that he was trying to get out of a deal to make this movie. So he pitched like, hey, how about if Godzilla isn't like this big monster with the big belly that everyone is familiar with? How about if he's more like a lizard? And I guess he was trying to get the rights holder, Toto, to be like, oh, that's a terrible idea. Let's find someone else to direct this. And they were just like, sounds good. This will be Hollywood's Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was the first Godzilla movie made by a Hollywood studio.
And the last. No, I mean, they probably made one since, but it was supposed to launch a whole trilogy.
Yeah.
That was, hence at the ending, Godzilla's eye opening back up, because you can't kill Godzilla, as we've learned from any of the other Godzilla movies. Can't
Right.
It just comes back bigger.
Can't. Yeah, the military cannot kill Godzilla. This was a critical and commercial failure, like a huge flop.
In the States.
Right. Overseas did fine, but it did not do well enough to spawn the trilogy that I think we would have liked, which is, sometimes the fate of what should have been a blockbuster film. But the soundtrack lives on,
Forever.
and I think the soundtrack forever, right? I was talking to a friend of mine, specifically a friend of mine who is what I consider the biggest Silverchair fan, maybe worldwide, definitely in the US, definitely stateside. Huge Silverchair fan. And I asked her, did you own the 1998 Godzilla album? Because it was the only way that you could get Untitled by Silverchair, which is kind of like a single track between their albums, Freak Show and Neon Ballroom. And she's like, oh yeah, I totally had that. I probably had more than one copy, because you could always get soundtrack albums in the 99-cent bin, so I could afford them. Also, they never had the explicit sticker. So her parents didn't give a shit if she was buying the album. So much like your story, right? She was like sneaking songs past her parent censors.
That's kindred spirit there. I think, Puff Daddy, I think, swears like 5 times. Zach De La Rocha
Calls Godzilla a
there's a
motherfucking
swear.
filler.
Yeah.
There's a
There's a
good
couple of them
swear.
in there. Green Day swears twice, I want to say. Yeah, so it is also really interesting when you look at Rage Against the Machine going into Ben Folds 5.
Oh my God, that Ben Folds 5 song. We're going to get to the Ben Folds 5 song. Ben Folds. It's Ben Folds, not Ben Folds 5, I think. But we're going to get to that. I don't want to skip having some dedicated time to talk about Rage Against the Machine's No Shelter, which I feel like people would agree is one of the better tracks in, Rage history. It's a great track. It was a track that they wrote and gave specifically to Godzilla. So like a lot of the songs that appear on this album, this is only available on either the Godzilla album or as a bonus track on the Australian and Japanese releases of the Battle of Los Angeles, which is wild. To have like a career high point on Godzilla, the album, feels crazy. That's crazy. And then also, I think in terms of how they approach this, so like Ryan said, there's a line on this album where Zach De La Rocha sings Godzilla, pure motherfucking filler, get your eyes off the real killer, cinema simulated light end trauma, and then starts talking about the thin line between entertainment and war, which is like very Rage, but also like this is on the Godzilla album, guys.
Got to give him props for that.
Like, is this the only time someone said, like, my contribution to the soundtrack is going to be me dissing the soundtrack?
Hey, you know, every now and then you get it. South Park does it, certainly. You know,
Right.
biting the
Yeah.
hand that feeds.
Right. It's very like Simpsons constantly making fun of Fox.
Yeah, and it's kind of there's a little bit of hypocrisy behind that as well, because not only is Tom Morello, you know, in Rage Against the Machine, but he also added guitars to Puff Daddy's "Come With Me," so he's on multiple tracks on this soundtrack.
It's not just Jimmy Page on there, huh?
It is not just Jimmy Page.
Wow.
I would like to dedicate a good amount of time to "Come With Me," which my hot take is this soundtrack was conceived because somebody really likes "It's All About the Benjamin Shot Collar" remix.
What? Expand.
So there's a Puff Daddy song called "It's All About the Benjamins," and then a few months after the single came out, he released a rock remix of it called the Shot Collar remix. And he made a video for it. Spike Jonze directed it. Jason Schwartzman's in it. And I think it got nominated for like Video of the Year. And the reason that I think that this song had such a huge influence on the soundtrack is not only is Puff Daddy on it, he's doing a song with Jimmy Page, so he's doing more of the rock rap thing. Fuzz Bubble is on the soundtrack. That is a band that Puff Daddy signed, and they contribute vocals to the rock remix. Wow. And the rock remix was pretty much remixed by Dave Grohl.
Huh.
So first, Puff Daddy brought it to Tommy Stinson of the Replacements, which sounds very strange in itself. Tommy worked on it. Puff Daddy didn't think it rocked enough. And then he took it to Dave Grohl, who was just like, oh, I'd like to try new things. I've never remixed a song before. I'm going to call Rob Zombie. And so, you know, Foo Fighters are on the soundtrack, Fuzz Bubble's on the soundtrack, and Puff Daddy has convinced Jimmy Page to not only let him sample Kashmir, but to play guitar on the track as well. So I feel like this was birthed out of that Shot Caller remix.
I mean, fair
It's a good
enough. I
theory,
can't
yeah.
argue that theory. I can't argue that theory. The connective threads are all there. I also think it's really hard to overstate how popular Puff Daddy
Yeah.
was in the late 90s. I mean, it was so oversaturated.
Certainly was.
We were so overexposed to him. He should have been canceled so much sooner. Just on the basis of how awful his music is. And I'm sorry if this is an unpopular take, but Come With Me is awful. Is an awful song. I can't abide it. I feel like it's an awful
I
song.
loved it so much when I was a kid and listening to it as an adult, and I'm just like, he is like the worst. Like, because it's not, you can't call him a rapper, right? He's like the worst MC ever. Because you could still call him an MC because he's on the mic, but I don't know. Maybe there are hip hop purists out there that would be really upset that I said that. But
No.
you can't really call him a rapper because he's just like, I don't know, man. Like Ready to Die would be arguably the greatest hip hop album ever if it wasn't for him just being like, yeah, okay, and it's just like talking so softly and just like it made my skin crawl when I first heard it. It still makes my skin crawl. Come With Me it still has a place in my heart, but yeah, I can't say that it's good by any means.
Yeah, and they pushed that song hard.
Oh yeah,
They
they really
performed
did.
it on SNL. I think it peaked at number 4 on the Billboard charts. But that video was everywhere. My friend in high school, he was a huge Zeppelin fan. And when he found out this was in existence, he swore off the whole genre of hip hop for like 2 years. Like I had to like convince him like, hey, not all hip hop is this.
Not all.
And he wouldn't listen until I think I gave him like the Roots Things Fall Apart. I was like, look, they're playing instruments and not like sampling everything. They're not just sampling popular music. But yeah, he swore it off. He was so angry. Like it was sacrilegious to sample Kashmir. I was like, but Jimmy Page signed up. He's in the video.
Jimmy Page he's a featured artist.
Yeah, he's a featured artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
like and production or writing credits go to Robert Plant and John Bonham. Like it's all part of it. They signed on. When I look back at Puff Daddy's career, I don't like his music, but the one genius, quote unquote, well, not quote unquote, but the one pseudo genius idea that he did was that when a lot of, especially at that time period in the later 90s, a lot of hip hop was getting incorporated into pop music a lot more, you know? I mean, that started probably as early as like 94 with hip hop drums ending up in pop songs. But as, you know, white corporate America started to adopt these concepts that hip hop created, which the cultural appropriation has been there forever, you know, whether it goes back to blues music, disco, whatever. The one thing that Puff Daddy seemed to do was to like reappropriate. He like appropriated white music that like he knew white people loved and was like, I'm going to turn that into a hip hop song, whether it was like the Matthew Wilder song, Never Gonna Break My Stride, you know, or the Sting song, or
David Bowie.
Or David Bowie, or the Kashmir, you know, this one. It's like, these are all songs that are beloved in the hearts of whites. And he was just like, I'm going to appeal to that audience. So it was a smart business move. Yeah, and he did that very well for a short period of time. But it's very, like, his biggest hits, none of them are like original songs by any means. They're all kind of reinterpolations of like a very famous other song.
Right. Right. That's a great point. No, that's an excellent point. I also feel like this was a time when sampling was maybe a lot more controversial than it is today, because people like Puff Daddy had just cracked this code. So I remember people like your friend having a lot of backlash towards songs like this one that were incorporating a sample, despite the fact that there's, you know, full involvement from the people that are being sampled.
Yeah, I think the idea of sampling like a popular song was kind of like this new novel thing that he brought. You know, like Q-Tip was sampling in Tribe Called Quest, but it was like all the, other than Lou Reed, it was a lot of, you know, jazz records and, you know, making something new, where Puff Daddy was just like, I'm just going to chop this like 8 bars and just loop it.
Yeah. And I don't care if people find it sacrilegious or crass or any of the whole spectrum of things. It's commercial and it's going to work. And it did. This song went platinum. Come With Me went platinum. It peaked at number 4. You know, it really tapped into, I think, the cultural tastes of that time.
Yep. Definitely saw the writing on the wall, and he delivered what it was asking for, you know. This song was a walk-up song for Derek Jeter for a short period of time.
Really?
Come With Me.
So
I
correct
read
somehow.
that it's also a goal song for like a French soccer team whenever they score a goal.
To this day? Wow.
Why?
Why?
What of all songs?
Yeah, the French.
Of all songs,
I
why?
don't know.
The French need to update that. That's
It's like, we can get you a better song.
yeah, right.
We can deliver.
We have more.
There's other ones.
Or just switch to Kashmir.
Yeah.
Or just switch to the original because it's better. Robert Plant is a much better vocalist than Puff Daddy.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about the ickiness of it all.
Yeah, that also. Well, I mean, Led Zeppelin has some ickiness, but
Also true.
we don't need to get into that.
That's a different podcast.
That's a different podcast, exactly.
Different podcast talking about like the levels of ickiness that appear on Godzilla: Colin the album would be another hour, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Not to segue based on ick factor, but Foo Fighters contributes a really lovely little sleeper hit here called A320. Certainly the best song written about an Airbus, I think.
I agree.
I'll
So
go with that.
The big reason I was interested in this soundtrack in 1998 was because I was and am still a pretty huge Foo Fighters fan.
Okay.
And so this song is kind of a special song in their discography because it is like one of two songs that Franz Stahl plays on. And this is a good time to plug our writing site. If you go to our writing site, I wrote about Dave Grohl's trajectory in the 90s. And there was a lot of band instability with the first 4 Foo Fighters records. Each record has a brand new lineup. The first one, infamously, Dave Grohl did all the instruments. On the second album, he basically re-recorded all the drums, and so the drummer left. And then shortly after the release of that album, then guitarist Pat Smear left, and he was replaced by Franz Stahl, who used to be in a DC band with Dave Grohl called Scream. But back then, Dave Grohl was the drummer. And Franz kind of was the main music writer in Scream. So basically, Franz didn't make it to the next Foo Fighters album because the dynamic had shifted, and Foo Fighters is very much a Dave Grohl vehicle. Like, Dave Grohl brings the song, you guys add your things, and then that's how it works. Like, it's not a democratic, like, I'll write the chorus, you write the verse, or whatever. Like, it's, and so that's why Franz didn't have a very long shelf life in the Foo Fighters. So this is one of 2 songs that he got to play on. The other one is Walking After You, which is a re-recording, which they did for the X-Files soundtrack. So this is like the only original Foo Fighters song with Franz on it. And it's one of the more interesting Foo Fighters songs.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a lovely song. Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl has said that when they watched the movie, they were very upset to find out that their song did not appear in the film, because it sounds like they had been led to believe that, well, as you would if you're contributing to a soundtrack, right, that it would be there. And it wasn't, and they were disappointed and hated the film and kind of disavowed it. But Dave Grohl's, bow on all of this was, well, we got paid a lot.
That makes it
so it's fine.
It cushions the blow a little
because
bit.
Dave Grohl needs more money, of course.
Of course.
Right. But I think this entire Epic Records compilation for Godzilla kind of comes down to that. It comes down to, well, people got paid a lot. So if you're wondering why some of these actually really wonderful tracks ended up in such a strange place, this was a really, I think, well-funded project.
This wasn't the beginning of this type of era, but it definitely was like I don't know, one of the Mount Rushmore, I feel like, for albums that were just an accompaniment of all different varieties of genres of music. They were just trying to get people to buy an album and also thus promote the movie, and then we'll throw a couple Godzilla roars in there too.
Exactly. It was a slightly more adult version of a Happy Meal toy.
Yeah, you definitely see them trying to nail all 4 quadrants of consumers.
The consumer quadrant was definitely considered.
I guess they didn't go country. They could have gone country. I'm glad they didn't, but they could have tried, and that would have been.
They could have gone country. I feel like this was a time where country was not as mainstreamed as it was.
Yeah, unless
now.
you were Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
Unless you were Garth Brooks, but I think it would have been a choice, and it would have been maybe not the choice for this album that was big and bombastic and promoting a summer blockbuster. However, it doesn't explain the sort of weird quality of hearing both Silverchair's Untitled and the Ben Folds ballad Air on this album, because both of them are so not related to anything here. That Ben Folds ballad lyrically, it's about, being rescued from like a suicide attempt, right? Ben Folds is not like an upbeat. They're not like giving you upbeat lyrics in a lot of cases, right? Untitled by Silverchair, I think, is about more of, Daniel John's battle with anorexia. Like, these are like bleak songs for a Godzilla album, for an album for children.
Again, it comes right after the Rage Against the Machine song, No Shelter. So
I remember reading like the
Right.
snarkiest review from like Rolling Stone or something when the album came out, and they were like, Ben Folds contributes Air. Does that mean that Air needs to write a song called Ben Folds? And I was
That
like,
would have been
what
great.
the fuck does that even mean?
That's so ridiculous. But also people were probably struggling to both, comprehend and write something meaningful about Godzilla, Colin, the album.
Yeah. That checks out. Yeah. All in all, a memorable project. You know, I remember Fuel definitely was big for a bit as well.
But I don't think they were big yet.
No, I don't. That's a good question.
I don't think that Hemorrhage song was out yet.
No, yeah, because '98 was their first album, so this would have been like right at the beginning of their career.
I think they had that Shimmer song.
Yep.
They definitely would have been on some kind of ascent, and I'm sure the label was promoting them very heavily, and this was part of that push. They had a very commercial sound.
Yeah, their Shimmer was 42 on the charts, and then Hemorrhage was 2000. 2 years later, it got to 30 on the charts. Number 1 on the U.S. alt charts. So that's something. I do remember the In My Hands songs. Post grunge.
Nicole's an expert in post grunge.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert in post grunge. Let's not go crazy.
Back to Led Zeppelin on the album, or on the Hemorrhage in My Hands single, they had a Going to California cover. Bringing it back to Zeppelin.
Wow. Going back and listening to these songs was kind of a trip. I probably haven't listened to most of these songs in 30 years, almost 30 years. But I was like on Genius, and some people were trying to like talk about how they feel like A320 is a prequel to Learn to Fly.
Right? But why are the Foo Fighters so into airplanes, air travel as a concept?
According to Dave Grohl's interview on the Kelly Clarkson show, he wanted to be a pilot at one point.
Okay.
Yeah,
really?
like she's like, "Oh, Learn to Fly is so inspirational," and he's like, "Oh, because I just wrote about how I wanted to learn to fly an airplane."
Like, all right.
I do sometimes ponder how Dave Grohl is just a large child.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Right?
he has ADHD. I think that's why he's such
That's
a
just
good drummer.
wild
Like
spirit, like trapped
he is
in
a man
large
child.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not an excuse, by the way.
No.
For
But
anything that Dave Grohl may or may not have done that we won't talk about
Right.
in this podcast.
Yeah. But it's a valid observation. Give you that.
But as a fan of the band, I'd be like, Dave Grohl doesn't do that. He's not like, oh, let me like link songs together. Like, oh, this is a prequel.
That's actually super funny, though.
Yeah.
It's super funny that he's like, no, it's not that deep. I really do like planes
Yeah.
because I'm 9.
And I'm gonna cross dress
Playing
in the music
cool.
video, and Jack Black's gonna be in it, and it's gonna be a fun time.
Just a good old romp. I watched I want to say it was a documentary on Taylor Hawkins and his whole part in Foo Fighters a little while ago, and I really enjoyed that. But I'm, being from the Seattle area, I was very familiar with Dave Grohl, Nirvana, and all of the Foo Fighters' early stuff. So it's been interesting to see them go from, they never were like a local band by any means, but like to just becoming such a large world phenomenon.
Yeah, and it like now we just think of them like, of course the Foo Fighters are huge, but like in 97, 98, they were like, who? The guy from Nirvana's got a band?
Yeah, the drummer.
The drummer?
Nirvana, yeah. Everyone's like, who's the drummer? Like, what? Yeah. Well, I had a friend, she was using the restroom in a restaurant in Bellingham, Washington called the Bagelry. And the former Nirvana bassist walked in on her in the bathroom because she forgot to lock the door. And it was a very awkward moment. She was taking a pee.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a Pacific Northwest experience.
And that was probably really terrifying for your friend because he's a very tall man.
Yeah, very tall. Yeah. I want to say it was awkward, but it was also like, You know who just walked in on me taking a pee? It was just one of those moments. It was pretty funny. Always stuck with me.
Yeah, sometimes I like to talk to people about SeaTac, about the airport, and how the on the speakers they'll tell you about like not leaving your bag behind, but it'll be like the bassist from Guns N' Roses like telling you not to leave your bag behind, like at the airport. Like
Really?
they have all these like grunge and rock artists that give the PSAs over the PA at SeaTac. It's so
I
great.
haven't even been to SeaTac in a while, apparently. Wow.
It's amazing.
Okay. I'm going to have to just... I remember when you could go into the airport? You could, like, people would, like, go in there and to eat. I remember when I was a kid, my grandma would walk me to the gate, you know? Now you got to go through the security. You got to have a ticket.
Yeah,
Let's make airports fun again. You know?
I used to love going to the airport, you know, with my parents to pick up whoever because they had arcade machines.
Yeah.
So I'd like get my quarters and be like, I'm gonna play some video games while we wait for my sister to fly in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is why Dave Grohl wanted to be a pilot so bad, because there used to be a very romantic air around traveling on a plane. It used to be much more glamorous than it is now. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen those pictures of like a prime rib being sliced in first class or whatever, you know?
Right, on some like Pan Am, you know.
Trying to remember. Oh, Chris Novoselic.
Yes.
Novoselic. I was trying to think of the bassist name. I was like, what's his name again? Tie that loop.
Oh, so some chart stuff for Godzilla. The soundtrack debuted at number 2 in the U.S. The soundtrack has also gone platinum. Like we said, Come With Me made it to number 4 on the U.S. charts. I believe it was number 1 in like Iceland.
Okay.
The Jamiroquai song, it's their only number 1 single in the UK.
That is so interesting.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Normal Island.
Shall we ask Colin the 3 questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Colin, I hope you're prepared to play a little game here on Soundtrack Your Life.
I'm ready.
Amazing. So we're introducing a new segment called Your Life in 3 Tracks. So we talk a lot about soundtracks here, but we want to know, Colin, if your life were a movie, what songs you would choose to soundtrack it. So with that in mind, if you're thinking about your action scene, you are maybe Matthew Broderick in the Godzilla film, you're running through New York, or you're not, you can be doing anything. What would the song for your action scene be?
Well, when I thought of my action scene, I thought about me fighting like a bunch of bad guys, similar to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, it's me against like 50, and somehow I'm managing to hold my own because it's an action movie. It's ridiculous. The song, I had a couple different songs that I thought about, but the one I landed on was a track by a band named Block Party, and the song would be "Like Eating Glass."
Oh. Yeah. It's a good one.
I think it's got a good build up. You know, you could have like it kind of winding up as that intro kind of steps in, or you could hit it right in the middle. You know, something. But it's got good energy to it.
I like that choice. We don't talk enough about Block Party, just as a society.
I was just gonna say I respect the choice because he did not choose Banquet.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't go for the obvious.
I think this "Like Eating Glass" might be my favorite song, or it's right up there. You know, it's right up there. I really liked that album. Was it Silent Alarm? Is that the name of the album? Yeah, good one.
Very strong. All right, so for your action scene, that's what we're choosing. What are you choosing for your romantic scene?
So initially, I had a couple different thoughts. My first thought was I was like, don't overthink it. Just go Berlin. Take my breath away. Okay. Campy.
It's a classic.
And then I went to, I was like, all right, well, something a little more me, a little more my hopeless romantic era. So I would have chosen Mario's "Let Me Love You." And then I ultimately settled on "Love" by Kendrick Lamar featuring Zakari.
Nice.
Classic. Yeah. Classy. I like that. I like that you put a lot of thought into this.
Exactly. Because I was like, well, I could go campy. I could go the more adolescent, like youthful. And then I was like, well, I'm an adult. At this point in my life, it's like I feel like the Kendrick song is more of an adult, mature relationship.
And it's
I
got
appreciate that
swears.
answer. I think
It's got swears.
yeah, and it's got swears. It's explicit.
Mm-hmm.
It's parental advisory.
Yes.
Wonderful answer. And then finally, what is playing during your makeover montage?
My makeover montage, I struggled with this one a little bit, but I ended up landing on Radiohead's I Might Be Wrong off Amnesiac.
Ooh. What do you see happening here with Radiohead in the background?
Well, I didn't think of it necessarily as like a makeover, like my look, like I end up, I was thinking more of it like it's like a post-training montage, just been defeated, rising up from the ashes type of thing, or just like Neo when he finally realizes that he has all the powers type of things. But kind of just that process of shifting into that. And so I don't know, I think that, is it a bass line that starts out in that song? It's either a low guitar. Yeah, it's like a low guitar. Yeah, but, it's got a triumphantness to it, while still having a little bit of spookiness and, some noir aspects. I don't know. I'm a quirky guy, so I like the X-Files.
Well, I love those answers. It also feels like a very well curated little mini soundtrack. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for playing, Colin.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I feel like those three songs fit well together, like in a bigger whole, or as a larger whole.
I would trust you to be music supervisor for this movie.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. If I had to be the music supervisor for Godzilla, and I had the opportunity, and they were like, okay, we want you to remix a rock song, I don't know. Kashmir would have been a good choice. Like, ultimately, like, I don't know if the execution landed well, but I get it. Kashmir, it's acceptable. I think I would have chose When the Levee Breaks instead.
I think Jack White has used that in the sample for something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for Beyonce.
Okay.
Maybe.
When I was, my first mixtape that I made when I was 18, 19, I want to say, I did, obviously I didn't make any music, so it was all instrumentation from other people. One of the songs I did was When the Levee Breaks, and I did not manipulate it at all. It was just the drum intro with the harmonica. I used that and put vocals over it. I looped All That She Wants by Ace of Base.
Nice.
Just because that just has a bunch of instrumental segments in the song, and I was just like, all right, I'm just going to loop these. And yeah, I had fun with it. I rapped over an Air song. Speaking of Air.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
They should use that at a French soccer game.
I should, yeah.
That should be the new goal.
It's not a good song, though. That's the problem. I was young.
Well, the current song is also not a good song, so.
It's also not a good song.
I was going to say, can it be worse? I think not.
Maybe not.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of the soundtrack supervisor for this film, is a veteran soundtrack supervisor. He goes by the name of Peter Afterman. He has a very diverse, I guess, portfolio of soundtracks that he has supervised. He's done stuff from the 80s, so he did the second Ghostbusters film.
Okay.
And then he did Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Wayne's World 2. And he's technically the soundtrack supervisor for the Dune movies, but isn't that mostly just Hans Zimmer's score? Like, what are you supervising? Like, good job, Hans Zimmer.
Now I'm curious about what the soundtrack to Ace Ventura Pet Detective looked like, so I got to look that up real quick.
And he also did like the farthest
remember
thing from Godzilla by doing the soundtrack supervision for Juno.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You said he did Pet Detective 1, not Pet Detective 2?
I believe Pet Detective 1.
I do remember the song Aces in the House by Tone Loc. I do remember that. But I mean, yeah, that was before soundtracks were really a big thing, because you're looking up that soundtrack and it's like, it's got one song that's kind of referential to the movie that they'll play in the end credits. But I mean, I just saw, I went to the theaters recently and saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 35th anniversary, because one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, but it was came out too early for me to see it in the theaters as a kid. So I jumped at this opportunity. And that song, I mean, I think they have, it's like Partners in Crime or something, KRHYME. They had like 2 songs, I think, for the movie. And one was by them. The other was by MC Hammer. So that was like a big thing where it was just like, you know, in the early 90s, late 80s, where it was like get a hip hop artist to come on and just rap a song about the movie.
Yes.
You know, I don't think the Will Smith Fresh Prince song about Nightmare on Elm Street ended up on one of their soundtracks, but it could have. Where it was just like, that was like a thing where it was just like, we're just going to like retell a movie in hip hop form. It was fun.
That was definitely a thing for a brief window. And you know, Godzilla represents its own kind of later 90s thing where the soundtrack is simply a promotional tool. We just covered 1997 Spawn. We talked a little bit about Judgment Night. The Crow soundtrack was similar to this as well, where you're really just getting a companion piece. And, you know, as Ryan said, it's something that's encouraging you to hopefully watch the movie so it doesn't crash and burn at the box office. But I think, you know, studios maybe kind of find out this wasn't a foolproof plan. It wasn't totally, you know, without its flaws. It didn't guarantee your movie was going to be a success.
No, not by any means. And I mean, Godzilla technically made the money back, pretty sure, but it flopped in the sense of the expectations of the studios. I mean, it's always dangerous to do anything with expectations attached to it. So.
Yeah, but that's all movie studios do is expect things.
I know. Yeah, you're right. This'll be a hit. Then it's not.
It's got Matthew Broderick.
And
a giant iguana.
It is not Godzilla. It is not a radioactive lizard. It is a giant iguana. That is a good summarization of that.
Yeah, it's such a strange film because it really doesn't seem like it's for anyone. It's not for somebody that's new to the franchise. It's not for a Godzilla enjoyer that's expecting to, I don't know, see Godzilla, because you don't. You see something else, something between the Jurassic Park dinosaur and a radioactive iguana.
Oh, yeah, it's made by a person who wanted to get fired from the project.
Yeah, and I mean, it shows, right?
It does show.
Sabotage.
It really does show. So when I mentioned that I did a review of this for a different podcast a couple of years ago. That podcast it's called The Outsiders Social Club. I appear on it periodically. They did a whole multiple-hour session on the summer of 1998 movies. And the guy, he's like the general in this. His name's Kevin Dunn. He was in 3 of the movies. I reviewed 4 movies from that summer. He was in 3 of those movies. He was in...
Wow.
He's the main bad guy in Almost Heroes with Chris Farley and Matthew Perry. He's the general in Godzilla, and then he was also the dad of the main character in Small Soldiers, which I ended up watching. Which, surprising, it's like adult Toy Story. Yeah, he was...
It was the summer of Kevin Dunn, really.
He was also in Snake Eyes, I think, that year. He was in 4 different movies. A lot of movies, that guy.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's always funny when you stumble upon a character actor that just happened to have like a year and like was in like a bunch of hits.
We love a hey, it's that guy. You know, I certainly recognize him.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You'd recognize him. He's in stuff. He's certainly in things. But yeah, Roland Emmerich's career had so much promise going up to this. I mean, Universal Soldier, not the greatest movie by any means, but it was entertaining. It had vision. Stargate was a big hit. Independence Day, obviously. But it's very interesting that he followed Godzilla up with 2000's The Patriot, which tonally very different, but also kind of makes sense that it's a Roland Emmerich film. It's very violent. It's a lot more violent than the other ones, but
I believe that.
Yeah.
I have not seen The Patriot, so I'm going to take your word for it. It tracks.
I mean, Mel Gibson also really into violence.
Also very
right. I was going to say, anything with Mel Gibson, you're kind of assured that there will be blood.
It's like American Braveheart, essentially.
Right. Hey, I'm making a movie about Jesus. Let's beat the shit out of him.
Seriously. But yeah.
American Braveheart is so great.
I never did see The Day After Tomorrow or 10,000 BC or 2012. Or, it seems like he got into more disaster films almost. I don't know. exactly.
He's just trying to rekindle that Independence Day energy.
Yeah. He did that movie Moonfall. I remembered I saw a preview for that. It had Halle Berry in it and Michael Pena and a couple other people, but it did not look good. It was like the moon is falling towards the Earth. Like for whatever reason, it's like an asteroid. All of a sudden the moon just starts falling towards us. And then it turns out that it's an alien base and all of a sudden there's an alien invasion going on. And I was like, wait, what? I just learned about that conspiracy theory. I didn't even know that was like a whole thing. And there's like a lot of people that believe that the moon is just a giant base, like that is man-made.
Right, the hollow moon.
Hollow moon. Yeah, I'd never heard of that until the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't personally believe in the hollow moon theory, but
still.
and I want to make it sound like I'm out there. Truth is, I'm not.
Well, I mean,
but it's interesting. I love an alien conspiracy theory. I do. I love an ancient alien stream.
Someone called Tom DeLonge.
I want to be the ancient aliens guy for Halloween one of these days. I'm going to grow my hair out and just like put it up and then just do like the hand.
Listen, you could honestly, that could be a group costume. Yeah. Everyone on that show is so nuts. It's great.
No, I had just never heard of that. You know, me and my co-host of the Nostalgia Pit, we do a decent amount of conspiracy theory talk because it just fascinates us. Not that we believe in anything necessarily, but we do once a month, we do a brackets episode. And the last one that we did was a conspiracy theory bracket. We've also done, I want to say like 90s cartoons. We've done a bunch of different things. The bracket episodes are a lot of fun. Oh, we did celebrities who tried to start rapping unironically. We did a bracket of that. And
like the best ones. Who rose to the top is like the best one.
Well,
or is it the worst
I'll say
one?
some.
Or we toppling.
Well,
worst best.
There was, Arsenio Hall was in it. Eddie Murphy was in it. Joe Pesci. Obviously, you had Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage had to be there. Actually, I don't think Hulk Hogan made the cut. I think it was Macho Man. John Cena also made the cut. The Rock. I think there was a whole wrestling section, now that I think back on it.
Shaq.
No, we didn't put Shaq in. Shaq put out too many albums.
Because he's a legitimate recording artist.
He's a recording artist. I mean, he had Foo Schnickens on a song. I mean, you can't really bash that, right?
Yeah.
He's a New Jersey legend.
He had an album that my old roommate picked up on vinyl in like the dollar bin. And he had like Jay-Z and stuff on it. Like,
he had a lot of good... Yeah, a lot of good artists on there. I assume you guys have done the Space Jam soundtrack before, right?
Yeah, I did it with our friend Brandis.
Okay, I was going to say, because if you haven't done that, it's a good question. That was classic.
We managed to not talk about the problematic artist from that soundtrack.
It might be a good call, The song that's by at least one of the... I'm not sure if there are multiple problematic artists, but the song that's by... the one problematic artist on that soundtrack is written by a different, arguably problematic artist. It's a whole sandwich.
Yeah, that's a problematic sandwich. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with Godzilla?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the soundtrack, just a lot of fond memories for me. Doesn't hold up in the same way that it did when I was a kid. But at the same time, it's still got some gems on it. I really sincerely appreciate the fact that it's got a bunch of songs that you can't find anywhere else on it. So, I mean, I think that in and of itself will keep it in the pantheon. It's not like just an assembly of, B-sides from a bunch of other artists or something like that. It's like, no, if you want to hear this Rage Against the Machine song, more than likely you're going to go to the Godzilla soundtrack or all these other things. So, I don't know. I appreciate the effort, and it definitely was a moment in time where it was like, okay, we're just going to make a variety album. It's going to go next to the project. I don't know.
And I think it's important to point out, too, that not only is this probably a core memory for people like yourself who listened to it when you were at a very formative age, but if you were a fan of these bands, these are songs that you could only get on Godzilla, Colin, the album. So this would have been a really important piece of media for you in a time pre-streaming when you couldn't access this stuff another way. So I think that's really the beauty of the soundtrack sometimes, is the rarity. And it definitely had that. So this has been a great one to talk about.
Yeah, pre-streaming, pre-Napster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't even download illegally.
Not that we know anything about that.
No.
I have never done that.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
allegedly.
I've heard tales.
Well, thank you, Colin, so much for being on our podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. I love what you guys do. Great concept for a podcast. When I saw it pop up, I was like, oh, yeah, I like that. I like that. Soundtracks are great. You know, they're very important. As you guys have mentioned, you've done a lot of ones that are very, I don't know, that have a lot of good memories, you know, for a plethora of different reasons. So, yeah, really like what you guys do. So thanks for having me on so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you for being our guest. And our listeners can find the Nostalgia Pit podcast wherever you listen to this podcast. How often do you guys release episodes?
We release every Thursday, typically Tuesday or Wednesday for our Patreon listeners, and the Patreon episodes come with 30 minutes of extra content. And as of October, we're going to be starting to do watch-alongs. I'm not sure if they're going to be monthly or like twice a month, but we're essentially going to watch, you know, random movies or cartoons or things like that, and just kind of, you know, comment on them. We're going to do it on playback. But yeah, you can find us anywhere that you listen to your podcasts at the Nostalgia Pit. We're on Instagram, and we have a link tree, and you can find, you know, most of all of our links in the description of our episodes. So
very cool. And you can find us on Blue Sky at soundtrackyourlife.net and on Twitter and Instagram at SoundtrackCast. And our writing site is at blog.soundtrackyourlife.net. Nicole has just released her interview with Jonathan Richman, the legendary Jonathan Richman. She does ask him about There's Something About Mary. So go check that out. And we are also at Patreon. So you can find us there, or you can find Colin. And yeah, once again, thank you again. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. This was fun.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, I had a blast.